James, I bought thousands of ounces of silver on your advice. I don't know if that was my advice, James, but yeah, I'm glad you watched the video and took some action there. So that's awesome. Actually, I'm going to answer the question on silver. I've got some questions that have already come in, actually, about silver and diversification, things like that. Because I had someone else say this week, oh, I just put everything into silver. I just spent 100 grand on silver. And I'm like, whoa, hold on a second there. I've never said spend, every last penny on silver. So we'll get to that in a minute. All right. We got people from everywhere, it looks like. We got Aussies, Americans, UK. All right, good. So we've got loads of questions coming in. So I'm going to get started with a couple that came in through Patreon first. As always, I always prioritize people on Patreon. So here's one thing before we even get started on the question. It is my birthday in a few days' time. So I've got a request from you guys. Actually, the whole goal was to hit 100,000 subs by my birthday. And I think we're going to do that easy because I think we're on 97,000 today, which is crazy if you think I only started doing this properly in April. So what's that? May, June, July. In 3 months, hit 100K. So doing it properly. So I'm glad there. So here's my only request for my birthday. I don't need any more gifts and cards sent to my office, nothing like that. All I want you to do is share your favorite video that I've made with 2 or 3 people in your network. That's it. My favorite video, and just share it with a couple of people in your network, WhatsApp, Facebook, YouTube, however you do it. That'd be really cool. So thank you. Right. So first question then. So this is from Russell Saunders via Patreon. How would you advise a complete beginner in trading to divide 5,000 into a starting portfolio? For example, 10% into silver, 30% into stocks, etc. Okay, so I'm not always, and many of you will know this about me, I don't always answer questions head on. I'll answer in a way that I think is the most beneficial for people. So if I had, say, and I was starting again tomorrow with 5,000, the first thing I would do is I wouldn't put it into an investment. No, definitely not. The first thing that I would do personally is I would invest into my own education. So whether that's like, buying some books, here's just a few of my books that I own. I'd probably start with something like that. I'd invest into some finance books, investing books, and I'd probably start that way. Some personal development books. That's how I think I'd start out. I wouldn't put, if I had 5,000, I wouldn't put that into an investment, because from experience, and bear in mind, how many, I've probably mentored 2, 3, 5,000 people now over the last decade. So based on that, there's patterns. Like you see patterns when you do this all the time. And the pattern I see is people who don't have a background in finance, or they don't have a foundation level of having done personal development and really developed themselves. If they get some money, like a pot of money, whether it's inherited or saved, they're very easily manipulated or scammed. Like there's a lot of scams going on at the minute. I won't start naming names because people will start getting upset if I start naming cryptocurrencies and things like that. But that's the first thing I'd do. I'd educate myself. I'd probably get a mentoring session with someone. It doesn't need to be me. Just get a mentoring session with someone that you feel aligned with, right? Someone who you really feel is well aligned with you. Get a session from them, even if you have to pay a few £100, dollars, euros, whatever it is. But find someone who is where you want to go. Don't just find someone random or someone who's famous or whatever. Find someone who you align with. And that is probably how I'd start off. Now, if I was going to invest in anything, you have to understand that there's 2 types of investments. You have producing asset investments, and then you have non-producing asset investments. So, for example, silver is an investment, but it's a non-producing asset investment. So what silver does is it becomes a store of value, like a store of money in times of financial difficulty. Now, if you've seen my silver videos, you'll see that I found these patterns and I analyzed these patterns and found that actually there's only this amount of money, right? It's not as if there's money and then there's all this excess money. There's a pool of money. And what happens in times of financial good, so when everything's booming, the money will go into stocks, it will go into housing, things like that, but it doesn't tend to go into metals. So when those things are going up, metals will go down. But then when you have recessions and things like that, people are worried about their real estate portfolio. They're worried about their stocks, so they'll go to what they've always gone to historically, which is gold. When you've got such a high gold to silver ratio of 100 to 1 or something like that, when historically it's, let's just say 45 to 1, that's, you know, an average, something like that, or even 70 to 1 as we move forward, right? You know that silver's a better investment than gold. And some people will argue with that, but I don't really get into the argument because I'm decided on it. So I don't, when people try and argue with me, I don't need to have that argument because I'm already decided on it, you know? And I think that's one of the most important things as well with your investments. Once you've got that clarity of thought and you've made that decision on how you want to invest, don't let other people like warp your mind and trick you and try and tell you this or that. So I'll give you a good example of this. There's a guy who I know in an investment circle, extremely wise, fantastic investor, and he's always been pretty accurate, right? So his investments have always been pretty accurate. Recently, he jumped about 75% of his portfolio into Bitcoin. And again, I'm not bashing Bitcoin before I get trolled on this, but I said to him and everyone else in the circle, I said, that is a terrible idea. That is absolutely terrible. I think you're making a huge mistake. I said it in a polite way, obviously, but I think it's a terrible idea. I think it's a terrible mistake to do that. And the reason for that is it's a non-producing asset, if you can call it an asset. What, you know, many people will consider it an asset. I personally don't consider it an asset, just to let you know that. And it's because it's digital, and I prefer gold and silver. So there's nothing wrong with it. There's a lot of Ponzi's within it, but that's not Bitcoin itself. It's within platforms within it. But I consider things like gold and silver money an asset, right? So just to get that out of the way. Now, the next thing is I would educate myself in ways to make money, like whether that's going to be getting better qualifications for the job you're in. That's another thing I would look to do. But I definitely educate myself in finance. I'd buy some books. Even if I had to spend £500, dollars, whatever on books, I would do that. That's how probably I'd start. I wouldn't start investing without having that knowledge. And I wouldn't do it without running it by a mentor who can actually say to you yes or no. And I tell you, if I'd have had a mentor back in 2005 when I started investing in real estate, it would have saved me £250,000, because that's about how much I lost from getting scammed by these people. And some of these people are trainers, right? They're gurus, like property training gurus. Oh yeah, Neil, come in with me. Come in with me. I've got this great deal. It's an island off the coast of Venezuela. Oh, everyone's in. Next thing you know, you've lost 100 grand, right? So you just got to be really careful with all of this and only invest with people you trust. Now, if you're an experienced investor, you can take more risks, but personally, I don't take risks. I like to keep it quite safe. If you're on my Patreon, and by the way, guys, it's $8 a month. Like, you know, if you haven't got $8 a month, then there's something a little bit going wrong there. So if you go on my Patreon, you'll see every single one of my investments. It's all laid out in a spreadsheet. I'm showing you what I'm buying, what I'm selling every week, every month. It shows you in detail. It shows you the businesses I've got. It shows you in detail the cash flow on those businesses, why I do it, why I'm not doing it, what businesses I'm going to sell, what I'm going to keep, what I'm going to go into in the future. So that would be a top tip as well. Just join the Patreon. $8 for, you know, advice like this, you know, is crazy. Right, let's see what are the questions we've got here. Okay. Let's see what else we've got. Okay, we've got one here. This was another Patreon from Tanisha Brown in the USA. Why is there a coin shortage? You know, I was thinking about this coin shortage thing all week, and I thought, am I going to make a video on this or not? Because I don't want some SWAT team like storming my property, trying to breach and get me over, you know, saying certain things that I shouldn't say about things that are going on. But here's how I'd answer that question for a lot of people who keep asking me about this coin shortage conspiracy. If you take a bag of coins, all right, and I've done this, by the way, so I'll let you do it. Take a bag of coins and go to the bank and try and give that bag of coins to the bank and see if they accept it. And then let me know. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say any more on this because I don't want to get myself in trouble. And already I've got myself in trouble plenty of times with some of my videos. So I have to be really, really careful. And I'm sure most of you know what I'm talking about. So I'll say no more on that. All right, what else we got? Actually, I will say a little bit more on that. You've got to think about everything in terms of a bigger picture. When things are going on, you've got to question it. Hold on, why has this happened now? Whilst there's things going on in the background that certain organizations don't want the public to see. Why is this coming up right now? Or why is this big thing coming up right now? There's usually, if you look at it, there's a bigger picture behind a lot of things. That's all I do. Right? I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just a critical thinker. I always, when I see crazy stuff going on, I go, hold on, where's this come from? Like, who's funded this or what's going on there? Now, if you look at the coin shortage, why is there a coin shortage everywhere? I just like to do things like crazy things. So I'll go into a bank and try and give them coins. And again, do this experiment yourself and see if they take it. This big coin shortage. Why is that? Well, what's going on with cash? Why is everyone not wanting to accept cash? Oh, because of virus. Oh, we don't want to catch this virus going around. Now, you've got to think what's going on with the dollar, the pound, and a lot of other currencies, the euro at the minute. These things are fiat currencies. I know I keep talking about this a lot, but they're fiat currencies. And they've lost the majority of their value. If you go back 100 years, and you can do this, you can look at inflation calculators. These currencies were worth 100 or more times what they're worth today. You know, a penny in comparison to a dollar. So all fiat currencies eventually come to an end. They always die eventually. And you've just got to bear that in mind when you're looking at the bigger picture of things. Again, I don't want to get myself in too much trouble. So that's all I'll say on that. All right, what's the next question? Okay, we've got a question about house prices in the UK and stamp duty. Right, so if you're not from the UK, stamp duty is basically a tax that the government puts on any purchase of a home. And it is mainly, the higher the stamp duty is second home. So there's background to this that you've got to realize as well. Why did I sell my properties, all but one of my rental properties? And I had a massive portfolio. You've got to bear this in mind. Why have I sold those houses and gone into a heavy cash position right now? And when I say cash, I don't mean at my house. I mean in the bank, different bank accounts. Why have I done that? Why have I got a very small portfolio of stock? Why have I gone quite heavy into metals? Well, it's because I think there's going to be a big crash. And stamp duty and, you know, there's something called Section 24, which I will touch on briefly, is a UK thing. But this is for everyone around the world. You've got to listen to this warning because it's going to happen in your country as well eventually. Because what happens in one Western country when it works for a government, other governments, like, they want to take it on and do it for themselves. So Section 24 was this outrageous landlord tax that basically makes it pointless being a landlord in the UK anymore. Now, some of you might think, oh, great, good, I hate landlords. But actually, from my experience, and I have a lot of landlords that I look after in my property companies, my real estate companies, most of those landlords, 90%, are really good, really, really good people. And I say to them, look, this is the latest law, this is fire regulations, this is government regulations, and they'll do it because they want to look after their tenants. And then you get like the 5 or 10% who are rogue and they're just not good people. All right, but they They're the bad apple that ruins the bunch. Now, what Section 24 did is it just completely decimated the market. So let's give you an example. Let's say that I earn $1,000 a month from a property, and I've got 5 properties, right? So I'm getting $5,000 a month. Well, before, I could offset the mortgage, I could offset repairs, I could offset the furniture, I could offset all of these things. The government then came in and said, no, whoa, we don't want this anymore. We want to make money off you. So what we're going to do is we're going to tax you against your personal tax rate, which is like, for me, is massive. It's like 45%, okay? 45% tax, and I can't offset the mortgage or any expenses. So what happens to someone like me is I end up losing 10, 20%. So I'm actually losing money on the properties, which is another reason for selling them. And this is happening to a lot of landlords. Unfortunately, a lot of landlords don't have good accountants, so they haven't got a clue this is even going on until they get their tax bill. So stamp duty was also increased, which is basically buying of a rental property or a second home, or even a home, just a normal home for a family. It's that crazy. So the government right now has abolished it for a short period of time in order to stimulate the housing market or the economy. So again, look at the big picture. Why would they do that? Why would any government just say, oh, we're going to not do the taxes so that you buy more housing? To me, it's obvious. And again, you might have a different opinion on this, but it's obvious to me. Why would they do that? It's because they know there's going to be a housing crash. Otherwise, why would they be doing all these measures? Oh, by the way, you can now get $5,000 to do Green Deal type things. So improvements on your home, and you only have to pay a third. Why would the government come up with all this stuff? You know, they're not your best friends. They're not trying to help you out. There's obviously a reason behind a lot of this. Anna, I've just shared my thoughts on Bitcoin, actually. Okay. Okay, a lot of you are asking questions that I've already just covered. Okay, do I plan on taking the COVID-19 vaccine? That's a funny one. Actually, that's from the Audacious Investor. He's followed me since I started, like 100 subs, and now I'm just about to hit 100K. So do you know, I don't like taking vaccines as it is, and I'll tell you why. When I was a soldier, so when I joined the army at 17 years old, I got hit with every vaccine going, right? When I was in Afghanistan, when I was in Iraq, when I had to go to other countries, which I can't even talk about, they would just shoot me up with all this stuff all the time. And I remember one time, I had this vaccine, I don't know what it was, and it made me so sick. I was in hospital for days, and I never felt right for months and months afterwards. I always had headaches and stuff like that. So personally, I don't like taking vaccines. Would I take a vaccine that was offered? Personally, I probably wouldn't. That's just me, but I'm young and fit, aren't I? So if I had underlying health issues, or I had, if I was quite old, it'd be a different story. But I'm young, I'm fit, I'm very fit. I train every day. I don't have any health problems at all. I eat healthy, so I'm not going to take it. But yeah. When will the housing crash happen? Already covered that, Travis. Check out the video 2 weeks ago. What about commercial and industrial real estate? They're going to get hammered, right? Commercial, high streets, shops, businesses are going to get hammered. If you remember the model I always talk about, and again, I've covered this on a few videos, but once you get unemployment, you get something called unemployment scarring. And you've got to, I'll tell you a brilliant book. I just had this on my table because I was recommending it to someone. This is called The Corporation by Joel Baker. This is a brilliant book, and it will tell you everything you want to know about businesses and corporations. I don't know how many of you have read it, or how often you read, but I literally I've read thousands and thousands of books. I read at least a book every single week because I want to keep educating myself. But that book will tell you everything you want to know about your employer and jobs. The bigger the corporation, the more rogue they are. and they'll not look after you. You know, when it comes to shareholder profits or employees, they will cut you just like that. The bigger the corporation, the less compassion they have. Like if you work for someone who has small businesses, so look, guys, I'm not a massive, big entrepreneur. I know sometimes people think that. I'm honestly not. I would say just I'm an average, everyday guy. I went through a phase of wanting to live the lavish lifestyle, the big house and all that. These days, that doesn't really interest me at all. I've gone through it and I realized that that's not the life for me. I really like a simple life. And so you'll never see me driving around in a Lambo and showing you on YouTube and things like that. Right. So I employ people, and I like to think I'm a good boss, and I haven't fired anyone during this pandemic. I've took the government grants and things like that, not financial grants, but like something called furlough, which basically means to keep employees on. And I wouldn't fire people just like that. I would really do everything I could, and even if I had to move people on, I would transition them. I paid out of my own pocket to transition those people on and help them get reskilled and things like that. And I think that's good when you work for small entrepreneurs who have, one company, or like me, I have quite a lot of companies, but they're all small companies because I like to stay lean and profitable. So that's how I do business. But I do think that things are not going to get better. Like real estate is not going to get better. Commercial, office space. Someone said to me the other day, "Oh, I've been advised by my financial advisor to invest into this company. There's office space." I was thinking, are you okay? Have you been drinking too much coffee or smoking something? Like, why would you invest into office space when everyone is working from home? Obviously, like, I don't know if it's just me. Maybe I just have too much time on my hands to think about things. But why would I invest into office space? Why would I invest into commercial real estate? I just wouldn't. There's no way. Should I get into silver now or wait for the second market crash for cheaper silver? Get into silver now. I don't know what you're waiting for. A lot of you keep asking me this. Should I get into silver now, or should I wait for it to get cheaper, or wait for the crash? If you wait for the stock market crash or the housing crash, you're already too late. If you and again, I don't think I'm 100% accurate on everything, but if you look back a couple of years, I can't see anything I've been wrong on in my predictions. I don't say that out of arrogance or trying to be like big-headed, but I just can't see anything that I've made a mistake on. But that's an important point, because it means statistically, any week now or any month now, I'm going to be wrong on something. I'm probably going to be wrong big on something, which is why I always give you the disclaimer and caveat. It's not financial advice. This is just my personal opinion. So I do think the housing market's coming down, and I think the stock market's probably going to come down as well. I think it's overinflated. All this money is going into the stock market. It's going into housing. And again, people keep asking the same question. And my answer is, watch the videos, go back and watch the videos, right? And the sort of questions that keep coming up are, well, Neil, you're an idiot because you're saying the housing market's going to crash, but I just went to buy a house and there was 20 bids on it. Well, no, it's not that I'm an idiot. I've already explained this in minute detail. What happens before every crash is you get these massive bidding wars, like huge bidding wars. And you might have seen a video that my wife and I did a couple of weeks ago. And we were talking about someone who's very famous realtor, and he got into a bidding war to buy a house in California. And we're like, oh my goodness. And then there's another guy in New York, famous realtor. He just got into a bidding war to buy his apartment, which was like millions. And I said to, I'm like, why would you do that? These guys are meant to be the gurus of real estate and the housing market. And yet they're making decisions. This is the sort of stuff that keeps me awake at night. I have people like that you wouldn't believe contact me. These people are on the news every day, experts in housing market. They call me up. They're calling me up. Neil, can you help me on this? I've got the. It's like, what is going on? Things are so messed up right now. Okay. All right, keep them going, keep them going. In antique silver, no, I wouldn't invest in antique silver. You want to invest into silver that's easy to sell when the time comes. Don't be like some people who think they're really clever and they get all this silver and some of it's junk, like junk silver, which is fine, but they get all this junk silver and they hold it waiting for the crash of, say, real estate or something like that. When the silver booms, they're like, right, I'm going to sell all this junk. People don't want to buy the junk necessarily at that time. They want to buy minted coins. And people always talk about numerics and things like that. I don't buy that. And again, I've said it over and over again. And I don't buy it because I want the government minted stuff. However, and again, I don't see people talking about this, but there's a massive risk. And I've put it out there so many times, and no silver guru has ever come back to it. When you've got silver and it's got money printed on it from, say, the US government, if you look back to when the gold was confiscated by the government and they came in and they literally took your gold, they were able to do that. And one of the reasons why is because that gold is money to the government, right? It's money. So if they ever need to recall your money and your silver is printed with money on from the government, I think that could be a risk for you. Whereas numerics, maybe not. But the thing is, numerics, I would never buy numerics. Like, I would only want to buy actual silver from like silver eagles, silver maples, Britannias, things like that. And that's personally like the way I do it. Because if you ever want to sell it, it's easy to sell. I've got a friend who's got so many numeric coins. I don't know what this mint is. Never heard of it before. He said to me, Neil, do you want to buy some of my silver? I was like, I've never seen any of this. How do I even know it's real? Oh yeah, I got it from this mint and that mint. And I'm like, I've never heard of these guys. I'm not buying it. But if I see an eagle, oh, Neil, do you want to buy this eagle from the mint? Yeah, I'll buy your silver from you. Okay, I'm not going to talk about the housing market per city, because if you think of it, people are asking me, oh, what do you think of the housing market in Johannesburg? What do you think of the housing market in this small town in Australia? Well, right, the housing market is regional. Okay, it's regional everywhere. The crash is going to be different based on the area. Like, for example, let me give you an example that will crash hard. Las Vegas. Las Vegas is one of those places that's going to crash, right? And I don't mind saying that. Whereas if we look at somewhere like, I know some of my friends are online from down the road, right? In fact, let me give you another example. San Diego, because I was thinking I was in for some reason I was thinking I was in California then. If we use San Diego, right, I don't think that's going to crash personally. I can't see an area like that crashing, but somewhere like Vegas, I think it's going to get hammered, right? Okay. Everyone's asking about Bitcoin. I've already talked about Bitcoin, talked about that earlier on. Do I think the government could confiscate gold again if there was a huge crash? Yeah, definitely, 100%. And it will happen. The challenge is right now, when the dollar finally ends, and it will end as its reserve currency, global currency, I'd say the USA may not be the world reserve currency at that point. If anything, I don't think we're going to have a dollar. Like, one second. If I grab some money here, right? So here we go. We've got like dollars. Okay, this is the reserve currency. It's like the world reserve currency. We've then got euros. And if you're wondering why I've got all this different money, it's because I travel a lot. I'm always traveling. I'm in different countries, right? So we got euros, and then we've got these pounds sterling. People don't realize this stuff is not, this is just trash. It really is. This is trash. Don't look at this as money and think it's like got a lot of value. It hasn't. This is just paper. This is worth a penny. This is worth a penny. This is worth less than a penny, like half a penny. This is just trash. It's not worth anything. It's not backed by anything. But when you've got gold or you've got silver, that's actually that's money. So this is called a fiat money, or again, I don't like the term fiat money. It's a fiat currency. It's not backed by anything. Now, when these currencies eventually die, and they will, all fiat currencies come to an end. None has ever survived. Something else will replace it. And people are talking about, all these other things that will replace it, or there'll be a new dollar. I don't think there will be. I personally don't think, I don't like cash anyway. I don't like handling cash. I don't like dealing with it. I prefer to just use my phone, beep, done, touch it, done. I've paid that way. All right. I don't really like credit cards if I can help it. I don't like dealing with that. I think it's going to be digital. And for anyone that's getting excited now, oh, Bitcoin, I've got it's not going to be Bitcoin. Bitcoin won't be the currency that's used in different countries. It won't be. The central, like whenever you've got a country that's got a military, trust me, they are not going to let Bitcoin be the currency of that country. Believe me, they can't control it, so they won't want it. So that's not going to happen, guys. Sorry to say. So what will it be? Well, I think it's probably going to be someone like China that creates the next currency. And there's already a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that many of you won't know about. And I don't know how much of that I can even talk about that I've seen. But I don't think it will be the US that controls the currency in the future. I think it will be someone like China. There's already alliances going on, China, Russia, Iran, a lot of other countries. And what people don't realize, I remember when I was, and again, I can't say too much on this, but I remember when I was in Africa, I was in different countries in Africa when I was doing the work I did in the military. And I'd be driving around, or I'd be walking if we were on patrol, things like that, doing some stuff. I'd be walking around and I'd see all these Chinese people everywhere. And it's not stereotypical, but they all had the, like the hat that they have in the rice fields. And I was like, what is going on? Why? You could spot them from a mile away. Like, why is this Chinese person here? And what's all this equipment they're doing? So they were doing surveys, and this is going back a long time, a long time. And they're doing all these surveys. And I thought, what is it they're doing? Next, I'm in India, and guess what? There's, again, same people. They're doing these surveys. That's interesting. What's going on? Then I'm in Southeast Asia, and again, 5-6 different countries in Southeast Asia, Chinese people. And you might think, well, you don't know that, Neil. How can you tell the difference between? Trust me, I can tell the difference between like different Asian people, right? And they're doing these surveys and things like that. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? And what's going on is China has very slowly and quietly, they've been buying up everything. And again, I did a speech not too long ago, and I was asked to stop talking about this topic, which is why I'm being careful and pausing on my words here. But if you even look at the housing market in your country, it doesn't matter which country you're in, there are certain people that are buying up all the houses. They're buying up all the real estate. And I'm not saying this is, look, I'm not saying anything negative against China or some other countries here. But what this does, and I've said this a lot of time, when you allow anyone who is not a citizen of the country to just start buying up housing and real estate and just doing all this, it causes a lot of problems. It really does cause a lot of problems. You go to certain countries, you are not allowed to buy real estate. You're not allowed to buy a house which has land with it unless you are a citizen or you're married to a citizen. And there's a reason for that. You go to London, right? My wife and I lived in London before. The tiny apartment we had there, we swapped that for a 5-bedroom house in the countryside, right? And the reason why is because the prices have been inflated so much because they just allow anyone to just go in there and buy up whatever they want. And it's caused a super bubble, a hyper bubble. It's not even a bubble. It's like a bubble times 10. I probably won't get into China now. They'll revoke my visa. Do I think the government will tap into or take over retirement plans? They won't need to. If you look at how things are going right now, they won't need to tap into it. A lot of these, and I'll give you a perfect example of this because I was just giving a lecture on this recently. You drive through any major city, and I'll give the UK as an example, right? You drive through a city and you see something that didn't used to be there 10 years ago. What are they? They're massive student tower blocks. Anywhere near there's a major university there's these massive tower blocks. People don't realize. I'm sat with landlords and things like that, and I'm saying, well, do you know who built that? Oh yeah, the name's up. No. They just borrowed the money. Where do they borrow that money from? Okay, you've always got to follow the money, all right? Where did they borrow that money from? They borrowed it from pension funds. They borrowed it from city funds. They borrowed it from, this money didn't just magically appear. It didn't come from the bank. No, they borrowed it from pension funds. And now what's happened, there's a lot of universities that are going to go bankrupt in the West. Loads of universities are already on the side discreetly filing for bankruptcy. I know of 3 that are filing for bankruptcy right now, which I can't even, I have a good network, so I find out about things way in advance of other people. There's 3, and these are big universities. They're looking to file for bankruptcy. So what I'm saying is, the government doesn't need to go in and start stealing pensions, things like that. A lot of this money is already being, it's disappearing because there's all these problems coming in. And remember the example I gave in my video a few weeks ago about the steam train, and that's the economy. So steam trains, it doesn't just start at 200 miles an hour, whatever speed it goes at. Some train guru will probably let me know below what speed they go at. It doesn't just start at that speed. Has to really slowly build up, and that's the economy. And then if you just slam that into the side of a mountain, right, that's what the coronavirus did. Derails the train. Now you get that train back on the track and let's just get it going. Oh, the V-shaped recovery, the V-shape. What nonsense. I've said this from day one. There's no such thing as this V-shaped recovery. Absolute nonsense, right? So what happens is the economy slowly builds back up again, but you have scarring, employment scarring. You got people that don't want to go into businesses, right? Just today, I was with my wife in a city not far from us. Well, we've got we used to own a lot of, they're called bubble tea shops, boba shops. If you don't know what that is, do a Google search. But I've got some in my fridge over there. But they're drinks. Okay, they're very unique Asian drinks. And we were there today. And I remember the summer before, we were absolutely our shops were just queues out the door, because obviously I'm good at business. I know what I'm doing. My wife is very, very good at business as well. She was, quite senior in any roles that she had in the corporate world. So we have good businesses. All of our businesses are really effective. I was there today and just getting a drink, hanging out, doing some stuff, saying hello to some people, just catching up with people. It's nowhere near. It's like 20% of the business that we normally have. And I talk to other people. I talk to other friends. How's business where you are? How's business in Santa Monica? How's business in Mumbai? It's the same everywhere, right? It doesn't matter where you are. There's problems with businesses. People are not going back. And I tell you what, I haven't been for a restaurant meal in 6 months, and I wouldn't. There's no way I'm going into a restaurant for a meal right now, because I just don't want to. I just don't want to even get into that. So you have this employment scarring, going back to the model then. So you've got this employment scarring. The more unemployment you get, that means that people don't have this disposable income to then start buying products and services. So what happens to that company? Well, they have to make cuts, because they usually operate at, let's say, a 10% margin. Let's just use a 10% margin. So if they're losing 40, 50% of their income, well, there's no way they're getting that 10% margin. They're probably losing 30, 40%. So what do they have to do? They have to make cuts to their staff. That's the first thing that goes. It's always staff. That's what a company looks at. Whenever I've been on boards and I've sat in on meetings like this where they've needed advice, they always do that. They start with the employees first, because these big companies, They don't care about people. That's one thing you've got to understand. They really don't care. They pretend they do. It's like these environmental policies, right? Oh, we do this for the environment. We're doing this. We're helping here. They wouldn't do that unless there was a payoff. You've got to realize that. There's no way they would spend money on doing cleanups and making their things more efficient, things like that, if they didn't think that the consumers would look at them positively for doing that, right? And even the shareholders, they resist it at first. No, we don't want anything that takes away from the bottom line. But then once they see, oh, actually, yeah, the consumers, they're going to spend more money with us because they think we're more green. Yeah, let's do that, right? That's how these things go. No money for bubble tea. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, guys. No money for bubble tea. Yeah, got some trolls. All right, I'll block you later, dude. What else we got? By the way, I've just been on a troll hunt this month. I've blocked 70 already. So yeah, send me some messages that I won't like, and that'll be your last. Okay, short-term rental market. That's a good one. And it's booming. Okay, so short-term rental market. Let me talk about that a little bit. So Airbnb is what we're talking about. But even though Airbnb gets hammered and gets all the stick, Airbnb's small. You've got to realize this. You guys think Airbnb, oh yeah, they're the ones. Again, remember what I was saying earlier. Expedia, Booking.com, these are much bigger than Airbnb. But they have very clever, let's just say, PR departments. Again, I've got to be really careful. I don't want to get like sued or something here. Airbnb, let's just say, they're not the cause of a lot of the problems with the short-term rental market, like taking homes from families and things like that. So I do short-term rentals. I have an agency that does it. And if you look at even some of my houses, right, that we do this short-term rentals, these are not family homes. No families would live in the ones that we do. Like no family lives on a beach, right, looking out onto, like, unless it's Jeff Bezos' family or something, right? No family wants to live right next to a university. No family wants to live right next to a big manufacturing plant. So these things, in my opinion, I have no issues with serviced accommodation on houses like that. Now that I've got that out of the way, because otherwise people start going, oh, Neil, you do this, you do that, you take family housing. No, I don't. The thing with short-term accommodation is it has been hammered. It's been so badly beaten lately that what's going to happen is a lot of people are already, and it's mainly amateur people, they're exiting the market. They're selling their Airbnbs or they're renting them long-term. What this has done is, and again, a lot of housing experts, they don't even realize this. They're saying, oh, well, everything's fine. Rentals have actually come down in value because people aren't selling. No, it's nothing to do with that. Rentals are coming down in value because the Airbnb houses and serviced accommodation, sorry, not Airbnb, serviced accommodation houses have flooded the market. It's driving rents lower. This is what's happened. But apart from that, people are going to just swamp the sale market. They're going to start selling these houses. And it's already started happening in Australia. You look at the Australian market, it's already started happening. And it's going to start happening in other places. Yeah, thank you. I need more likes. Tell me about it. I'm always telling people to smash the like button, but you know, what can you do, mate? Okay, do I have recommendations on stocks, funds, ETFs? Okay. Okay, David's just sent me $2 thinking that's going to get his question answered. All right, let me see what I can do on that one. Right, stocks. The stock market is a very, very tricky market. Right, I'm an expert on the housing market, just to say that up front. And I really don't know many people that know more about the housing market than I do. I don't know anyone that predicted all of this in the housing market back in 2018 like I did. In fact, in 2018, when I was saying all this stuff, you should have seen what was happening. You should have seen what people, the messages people were sending me. It was absolutely like disgraceful. Some of the way that some of these like experts act, and a lot of people as well, saying you're an idiot, you're this, you're that. And now what's happened is all these predictions that I've made have come 100% accurate. The only difference was I said it would happen at the end of 2020. But what's happened is this whole virus and all the rest of the stuff going on with it has mixed everything up. It's like turned it into a big slush. And my job is to really take what I knew before and then look at this slush and try and get all that out and figure out what's going on. Whereas all these guys who think they're experts now, they're looking at just the slush, you see. This is the distinction. They're not looking at, oh, actually, this was it before and this is what's been added. So that's why I'm able to look at these things and predict it quite well. And I don't even know where I was going with that. So that happens a lot. I'll go off on a trail sometimes. All right, people are asking me regional housing questions again. Just covered that. All right, yeah, stocks. Yeah, I meant what stock market. So when it comes to stock market, look, I do stock investing. I'm very good at it. I don't think I make mistakes. I just did an over 500% return on a stock recently. I think I'm very, very good at it. Very good. But at the same time, I've got one stock that's losing money right now. It's gone down a bit. So it's a tricky one. I always say to people, invest into mutual funds or invest into something, use something like the Webull app where you've got analytics, AI, artificial intelligence analytics. That will help you to make a decision better than any of these stockbrokers and people like that. You don't need to pay someone to lose money for you. All right, you can do that all on your own. If you look at listen to Ray Dalio and people like that, and what he says, it's quite funny. Or Warren Buffett. Here's my brother here, Warren Buffett, on the wall, right? You listen to them and they say you can't compete with these AI trading platforms that these big firms have got, and yet these guys think that they can make these bets for you and make you money. They don't. They statistically, the AI beats the people who are making the manual trades. This is a fact. You can look up all the data and the studies on this. And talking of studies, one of the reasons I know so much about a lot of things is because I read papers like all the time. Even in here, I've just got stacks of what we call white papers or PhD reports or people who are about to win the Nobel Prize and they put out these theses and things like that. I read all these. I read a couple of these every single day. And some of them are a little bit weird or bogus, but what you notice is you begin to build this pattern, right, when you read all these all the time. So I definitely recommend reading them. What do I think is going to happen with the stock market? It's a tricky one, but we've got all this stimulus money at the moment. And I think it's probably going into the stocks and it's inflating them. That's the only explanation I can come up with for why some stocks right now are absolutely booming. One that I got rid of, which is good because I think it's going to absolutely crash. But I think the stock market will come down, right? I do think it's going to come down. But then that raises the next question that you'll probably have on your mind. Well, Neil, if the housing market's going to crash, the stock market's going to come down, what do I do with my money? I can't really give you that advice. All I can tell you is what I've done. And I liquidated my real estate. I will be liquidating most of my stock and things like that, except for the stock I own in my own companies, right? Because I have business partners and things like that. I won't be liquidating any of that because they cash flow for me. And this is the best way. Keep it small. If you want to have a job, right? Some of us, you have to realize, are not designed for jobs. I am not designed for a job. Right? And you might say, well, you were in the army for 10 years and you did all this sort of stuff that you did and whatever. That to me wasn't really a job. And the reason that wasn't a job was because I had a very specialist skill set. So I really had my own job And yes, I had obviously bosses and things like that, but some of the time I didn't even know exactly what I did some of the time. So it wasn't really a job. I traveled all around the world. I visited 65 countries in total, is how many different countries I visited. And I love traveling to different countries, right? But some of us are just not designed to have a job. Now, if you like having a job and you like that consistency and that 9 to 5 and the consistent income, don't let anyone tell you that you should open your own business or do self-employed or anything like that. If you go by what your heart tells you, go by what you feel. So if you feel that's right for you, do that. So I can only speak into what I feel is right for me, and that is to have small businesses and to be quite fluid in what I do. So I don't like being fixed, and I've lived in the UK on and off. So my wife's from California. So we're in California a lot. We are here in the UK a lot. We're in Asia a lot. Sometimes we're in the Middle East occasionally, but not very often. We like to be fluid. Even our last property, one of the things we realized, and I'll say a little bit on this, but not too much, is that we actually had a major incident at our last property. Now, here in the UK, you're not allowed to have guns. So I don't know if you guys know that, but you can't have guns. In the USA is a different story. All right, and some of you might be anti-gun, so I'm not going to talk into it too much. But we had a major incident where we were, because we've got our last house was a fairly big property, maybe 20 miles of countryside out there. And what happened was one morning we heard there was some noise outside. We didn't really know what was going on. And the next thing, blacked out car comes screeching down the road. Armed police get out and start pointing guns on these guys. Were in the bush outside our house, armed, right? So you don't even want to think about what might happen sometimes with situations like this. But for me, I like to keep things fluid, and I like to move around a lot and keep my businesses fluid as well. But if you want to actually create more income or whatever, then businesses might be a good thing for you. Otherwise, it might be a job. Tony, how did you get back on my live stream? I thought I blocked you. Okay, why did I sell my rental properties? It's really simple. Number one was the Section 24 that came in. I ran an analysis of all of the landlords in my portfolio, because we've got a rental agency that we look after a lot of landlords. And we ran an analysis of it. And the majority of the landlords were going to be losing money from, I think it's 2021 onwards. They were, nearly all of them were going to be losing money because they're in the 40% tax bracket. And this would have pushed them, they were going to get taxed 40% on their income. And I started looking at my own as well. And I'd sold some of them anyway because I knew we were in this bubble. I didn't need the IMF report to tell me that the UK was 35-40% into a bubble. I can see that for myself just looking at the GDP and some other charts. So I think, and I thought that housing would come down and crash. So that's why I started to sell my properties and actually get rid of my properties. But it was also the Section 24, and I think we're going to see a lot more losses as well from this Section 24. And guys, let this be a warning for you in other countries. This Section 24, look it up in the UK. You won't even believe it exists. It's that crazy, you won't believe it exists. It basically just stops the middle class from even having any investments really, except stocks and things like that. So I knew that was coming, and I wanted to get out, before there was a big crash. So that's the reason. battery cells, Tesla. Do you know what? Let me just say a little bit on Tesla. But I haven't got the Tesla stock anymore, just so you know. But I would invest into anything that Elon Musk does. All right. And I'm noticed we're losing the light here because it's just, I'm on London time right now and it's getting dark outside. So let's hope that you can still see me okay in a little bit. But I would invest into anything that Elon Musk does. Like I've been to Hawthorne, right, which is the SpaceX center. Had a full tour. My wife and we had a full tour of the SpaceX center. We watched it. We learned about everything there. And Elon is an absolute genius. You've got to understand this about this man. He is an absolute genius. Yeah, okay, he does some wacky things like builds a tunnel under LA just so he can drive to work without traffic. And he makes tweets to men in Thailand that he shouldn't make, and things like that. Right? He does some weird, crazy stuff like smoking pot on Joe Rogan's podcast and getting wasted on whiskey and crashing his share price. Right? But he is a genius. And there's a good book, I think it's by Ashley Lance or someone like that. It's about Elon Musk. You want to read that if you like biographies. So I would say anything he does is fantastic. He invented all the businesses he came up with. Most people don't realize the companies he founded, even before Tesla and SpaceX. There was a lot of stuff that he created that it's worth looking him up. But does that mean then that I would invest into Tesla right now? No, it doesn't. I would invest into anything he does, but if I see something that becomes a bubble, and again, this is just my opinion, I may be way off with this, but like the Tesla stock, why did I get rid of it? Because I think it went into a bubble territory. And then I see people like, oh, I'm buying it now, it's at this all-time high. No, you don't buy an all-time high. You buy something when it's low. Like you look at some of these big companies and their stock right now, and they've always done well. They've always done well, and they're always going to do well in the future. And I said, right, the one that I've lost on, look at Disney. People are saying Disney's finished. Oh, Disney's finished. The parks are closed and all this. People are too short-term sighted. You've got to think long-term about everything and about investments, right? That's the way you've got to look. Long-term with all investments. Just because the Disney parks are closed right now, that doesn't mean anything. When they reopen again at their $200 a ticket, you better believe they're going to start making profit again. Right? They already got rid of a load of that. Again, they got rid of staff. They just let them go. They fired them. There wasn't any, oh, I'm going to keep you on until the parks reopen. No, some people are gone. Okay, it's a big corporation. But just this mindset of, oh, Disney's finished and all this, yeah, it's crashed. Look at the stock price now. Battery technology. All right, so I'm no guru in this, but let me just say one thing around Elon and the battery technology. A lot of the other car companies are using his battery technology, and I've known about this for years. It's on the news now, but this is not new. You can find this on YouTube going way back, and it's like the mines and things like that, and the control of the mines. Tesla, he's not stupid. He's really smart. So what to invest in right now? The thing is, there isn't really a lot that I would say to you to invest in right now that's going to be a producing asset. So remember what I said at the start. You've got producing assets and non-producing assets, or returning and non-returning assets. So silver is a way that I would park my money right now, definitely. But is it going to give me a monthly return? No, it's not. It's not going to make me any dividends or pay me rent or anything like that. Real estate will always pay you dividends or rent every month. And the great thing about real estate is when you buy it, let's say you buy something for 250K, this house, 250K. And again, I wouldn't buy a house at 250K. I would make lower purchases because the ROI is stronger on lower priced houses. But for some reason, the real estate gurus who teach all this, they teach you to buy these expensive houses. I don't know where that advice comes from, but low price houses until you meet that, like there's a tipping point on the ROI. Right, so I would do something like that, but I wouldn't buy right now. Right, watch my videos. The houses are coming down. But when things start to get better, and once we see a better sort of view of how things are going, right, you want to look into real estate, because that will produce a return for you. If you really want to get into stocks right now, into the stock market, sure, get into the stock market. That you know, it's up to you, but only buy those companies that you know have always been solid, going back 20, 30 years. They've been solid, but right now they've took a blip. Well, they're going to be solid again in the future. So yeah. All right, I'm just going to do one or two more questions here, because this is the first ever live Q&A I've done, and I want to just keep it short so I can go back over it, look at all the questions, learn from this experience, and make it better for the future. But I'm probably going to do one every month, I think. Okay. Someone's just said there, real estate doesn't always pay every month. It depends. Like, you've got to think the level that I'm at in terms of real estate and how I do business and how the average person does it is night and day. Like, I don't lose money on real estate. I don't lose money on rental and tenants and things like that. One of the things we specialize in are something in the UK called HMOs, which I know means something completely different in the USA and other places, but that stands for houses of multiple occupation. Okay, houses of multiple occupation. And this is something that doesn't, when I went to America, I was going to set up a company doing it. Wouldn't work as well in America unless it was like LA or New York or something like that. And what this is, and this is crazy, going to sound crazy to some of you in Northern America, the majority of people, like young adults in the UK and a lot of European countries, they share houses together. It's not like uncommon to see 6 adults who don't know each other sharing a house and 2 bathrooms and a kitchen. And that exists here because housing, there's just not enough housing for everyone. And there's so many restrictions on house building. It's not like other countries where you can just throw up houses and it's done. Here, there's a lot of restrictions. And you know, it's the baby boomer generation that stops more housing developments being built. They put all these restrictions on it and petitions, and they got the connections. They stop a lot of these new housing. So you have these houses of multiple occupation, and they're everywhere in the UK. So I specialize in those because, from my point of view, it's almost risk-free. I don't have to evict tenants or anything like that. We get on really well with the people, and we make really, really good profits from this business model. Everyone wins. The tenants love it because they get beautiful houses. They get their own room to, you know, again, it's not something I would want to do, but you've got to look at the tipping point again, the pain and you know, what they can get. Otherwise, they can't afford to rent apartments and things like that. So they have to go into these shared houses. And when you think about that, as crazy as that sounds, it keeps their costs down so they can save up to buy a deposit. But what's happening is, and this was the whole idea of house of multiple occupation, what's happening is now, as people are trying to save up, the house prices are going up way faster than people can save up. So it's causing this massive problem where you've got the baby boomers with, what is it, 90% or 95% of all the money in the world, and everybody else has got nothing. It's madness. Right, I think let me just see. Hold on, someone said I forgot. David, I don't know anything about XRP, to be honest with you, my friend. All I know is that cryptocurrencies are not for me because they don't pay me a dividend and they don't pay me. And I can't rely on it as a store of money because I can't touch it. I want to be able to touch it in my hand, and then I can see it as a store of money. Right, guys, I think David, goodness me. Yeah, all right, let me learn about it, David. Let me see if I change my opinion. All right, guys, thank you so much for being on the live stream. Hope you've hit that like button for me. Appreciate all of you. And any other videos, you know what to do, drop it in the comments, and I'll do my best to make them for you. All right, take care. God bless. See you all soon.